Hey everybody, Chris here. Welcome to my channel. It's been an eventful weekend. Guess what? There's been a payroll tax deferral passed, and that may or may not be a good thing. And I ain't just talking about the long-term stability of Social Security. Want to know more? Stay tuned. So if you're new to the channel, I'd like to welcome you. I'd like to encourage you to give us a thumbs up. Helps with the YouTube algorithm. I'd also encourage you to hit the subscribe button and then click the notification bell so you'll be informed when the next video comes online. Today's topic, as I said, is the payroll tax deferral. We're going to dive into the actual text of the executive order to find out whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea.
So here we are on the White House website, and it talks about the executive order that is going to intend to defer the payroll tax obligations in light of COVID-19. So if we scroll down a bit, and this is basically a bunch of legal stuff by the authority vested in Trump as president by the Constitution and so forth, and he's going to argue that it's under the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act, and we have this U.S. code number here. I like the first line here that talks about the 2019 novel coronavirus, COVID-19, originated in the People's Republic of China. There's a not so subtle political dig right there, and the purpose of that could be discussed at length, whether it's a question of the buck stopping there, People's Republic of China, or it could be this. Anyway, to that end, here is what it says. The president is directing Secretary of Treasury to use his authority to defer payroll tax obligations most in need. This modest targeted action will put money directly in the pockets of American workers and generate additional incentives for work and employment right when the money is needed the most. And President Trump had wanted to institute a payroll tax cut back in March, and he's been talking about it ever since. It's not really going to help unemployed people because they're not paying income taxes or payroll taxes because they don't have an income to start with. But anyway, the idea is that it will cut 7.65% of your tax burden from your paychecks at this point. But notice that it says right here that it's going to defer. That idea of deferral is tied to putting something off, kicking it down the road, so to speak. It doesn't forgive the debt immediately. So we'll go down here a little bit and look at this section 2. And effectively, it's talking about who is going to benefit from this, and it's anyone who makes payable during any bi-weekly pay period generally less than $4,000. That would be someone making around $100,000 a year on a pre-tax basis. If you're under that, theoretically, you will have the 7.65% deducted, or not deducted rather, from your paycheck. You get that extra money. If you're making, say, $2,000 a month, you could expect to see roughly around $150 or so back from what you would normally see, because that would be roughly 7.5%. If you're making $5,000 a month, that would be around $375 that you would not see being taken out of your income taxes in a given month. If we go down, though, here's section 4, and this is something that's very important to pay attention to, and that's the idea of forgiving this tax deferral. And it directs the Secretary of Treasury to explore avenues, including legislation. So there's an understanding that Congress has to basically come up with revenue and appropriations bills, and this is something dealing with revenue. Anyway, there needs to be legislation to eliminate the obligation to pay the taxes deferred, and if that does not happen, you will have to pay this money back at the end of the year when you go to file taxes before tax day in April of 2021. So theoretically, you could owe quite a bit, especially if you have talked to your HR rep or your tax accountant to set up your deductions so that your payroll and income tax deductions, so that you don't get a refund, so that you maximize the amount of money that you get each pay period right now. So you could wind up with a tax bill at the end of the year. And if you do get a refund, you could wind up seeing that refund eliminated altogether, or at least cut, if this is not forgiven. I do expect the Congress to pass some legislation to forgive this. It's not really going to look good if, Trump is saying, hey, I want to cut this payroll tax, and Congress decides, yeah, we really would like to see the people pay that. And that's Democrats and Republicans. So a third of the Senate is up for re-election this year, and every House member is up for re-election. And if they are seen wanting to supposedly increase taxes on people, it's just not a good look, even though both the House, led by the Democrats, and the Senate, led by the Republicans, really didn't have a stomach to cut the payroll tax when Trump started pushing for it back in March. But anyway, I would expect the Congress will pass something to forgive this debt, but they may not, because if 2020 has indicated anything at all to us, it is the idea that, expect the unexpected. There's a lot of things that have gone on this year, from, giant Asian murder hornets to COVID-19 and all of that kind of thing. So what should you do with the payroll tax cut deferral that you're going to be getting, the extra money that you might see in your checks? I would recommend, at least until Congress passes legislation that forgives that, putting it into a money market account or a high yield savings account, so that you have that money available if you have to pay it back next year. You don't want to get to April and have a big tax bill that you can't pay because you spent this payroll tax that was basically deferred, and you got the money up front. Because the idea that is behind the payroll tax deferral is to have you go out and spend the money so you can stimulate the economy. But if you owe it next year, you'll want to have the money, and so you want to save it. Basically, that would be my recommendation. Now, if Congress passes the legislation, you can always go back to your money market account or your savings account, take it out and spend it on whatever you want to, or put it towards your retirement account. It doesn't matter to me what you do with it, but you just don't want to have a big tax bill next year.
So there you have it. If you don't need the money right now for food or utilities or something like that, don't spend it. Put it away so you don't have a big tax bill at the end of the year. I want to thank you again for visiting the channel. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and click the notification bell. Till next time, this has been Chris Hacks Life. Have a great day.